Hi, I'm Karen Garvey, your intuitive coach. I have another tip for you on freedom from negative thinking. One thing to remember is, again, your thoughts tend to take a hold of you. If you want to have less opportunity to stay in circular thinking about things that are not making you feel positive, one of the ways to step out of that on a regular basis, and also to create a canvas where, in general, negative thinking doesn't have a happy home, is to do more activities that have a beginning and an end, okay? So because we have so much assistance out there, we have washing machines, we have people who are making our food and delivering it to our homes, we have little robots that go around and vacuum for us. One thing we're doing a little bit less of is tasks, things that have a beginning and things that have an end. When you get into a zone where you are entering into a space that has a beginning and an end, you have a way of relaxing your mind and opening up to perhaps other kinds of good and stimulating or positive, inspirational thoughts or messages almost. So think about this. If you have a sink full of dishes and you start washing them one after the other, is that a time when you're really going to worry and stress? Are you going to turn the water off and go take a break to worry or feel unhappy and then come back to the dishes? Are you going to sit down and overplan something for work and then come back to the dishes? No, when you're in that space, you get into a zone, and the zone is what we're looking for. So there are other ways to do this other than having to wash your own dishes. I'm not suggesting that you do that. But it could be a project like, painting a little something outdoors that you wanted to paint for a while. It could be something simple like making a card for someone for a special occasion. It's activities that have a beginning and an end. Very much thinking in terms of what might be a hobby. What would be something that you would play? I always joke about this. It's kind of funny. One thing people don't do, if you can imagine somebody knitting a sweater, right? Somebody does not say, oh, look at that. I have 1 minute and 30 seconds until I have to pick up the kids. Let me pull out my knitting. And then you pick up the knitting and you knit for 1 minute and 30 seconds and then you go pick up the kids. Hobbies are the things we enter into that space when we have time. So already you're halfway into the zone just by choosing that activity in front of you. And it's getting into the zone that helps you, like I said, create the canvas where too much negative thinking doesn't have a happy home. So enjoy a hobby, enjoy a craft, enjoy creating something, and even enjoy the simplicity of getting a job done, a job that has a beginning and an end. And talking about doing something like knitting or crafting, it brings me to another tip. And this is a little bit different than just a craft or a hobby. It's about really immersing yourself in the creative process of some kind. A lot of people think of being creative as meaning you have to paint or you have to be able to be a composer. But creativity is not limited to just visual arts or music. Creativity is thinking about things differently than may be typical. It's finding a solution. It's getting an inspiration. So creativity might be something as simple as seeing the way something is not connected correctly and finding a tool or some glue or a way to cover it up and fixing it. But creativity is simply you doing something your way. So for an example, one of the things I do is I start a recipe for cooking. And yeah, I see the ingredients there, but by the time I get to ingredient 3, I'm really bored with measuring. So I'm like, you know what, this looks good, and I put that in. And by the time I'm finished with the recipe, I know you don't want to eat at my house, but anyway, by the time I'm finished with the recipe, it's already my recipe, and that's creative to me. All right. I don't do that with baking because I get that there's a little bit of a science to it, but it is easy for me with cooking. And I'm sure that there are things that you're doing that are creative or solution oriented without giving yourself credit. The more you immerse yourself in those creative moments, the less time you're going to have to be focusing obsessively on things that are not making you happy, on the chaos in the world, or something difficult going on in your own life. So pursue your own creative activities and expressions on a regular basis. Here's other examples. Parenting. A lot of people think that parenting is, one size fits all, but everyone's parenting is different. And when you start to see positive results in your kids, that they're responding to how you interact with them or how you communicate with them, that's creative, right? Maybe it's inspired also, but it is creative. A lot of oftentimes male clients that I have, they don't necessarily see themselves as creative because they're not pursuing, again, a visual arts interest or something that seems as though they're making something that they could give away or sell or hang. But what I find oftentimes with my male clients is that they're unaware of how they're using their creativity in the job place. It's not that women aren't, it's just that men are still culturally trained to believe that work is one of the most important expressions of their own identity. So when they're at the workspace, they're not necessarily becoming aware of how they are entering into that space with creative solutions. It could be the dynamics of the work itself, but it could also be the way that they interact with people, the way that they communicate with others. So when you are thinking about how am I creative, be really liberal with yourself. You're not like everybody else. You are not typical. You are an original. You have your own personality. You have your own stamp on things. Where does your uniqueness show the most beautifully and the most effortlessly? If you spend more time in those spaces, I guarantee you will have less opportunity or need to have negative thoughts take over your life. I'm Karen Garvey. Please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and like this video.